Hello and welcome to Louis Philippe in Pursuit of Excellence. My guest today is Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty from Bengaluru, but clearly one of the finest heart surgeons in the country, and not just that, but completely revitalizing healthcare in India and trying to do it overseas as well. Dr. Shetty, great to see you.
Thank you.
The first thing when you look at a doctor, at least for me, and you see him as fit as you are, you feel a lot better.
You're right, Vijay. Very reassuring for the patient.
Yes, because someone who comes and talks to you about healthcare and he's talking to you about diet and exercise and that, and you see someone who's not very fit coming in, you kind of wonder a little bit. So my first question to you would be, how do you stay so fit with your busy schedule?
I have been always an exercise fanatic, yeah. I used to practice martial art in medical school. I used to hold a senior brown belt in karate, and I used to take part in bodybuilding and exercise, and I still exercise every day.
Yeah. Fantastic, because you managed to keep a fitness that is quite unique, especially when you get into the 40s, 50s, 60s, and things start to slow down a little bit. The question is, how do you judge what's enough, or what's too much?
Vijay, for me, I stand for 8 to 10 hours at times. Sometimes surgeries can go on for a whole day. So you need to be physically fit. You need to have a strong back, strong legs. For that matter, any profession today, if you do not exercise, if you do not fit, believe me, you're not going to do your best. People who exercise in the morning every day, they're a lot more productive, a lot more attentive, and they look younger and fitter and impressive than people who don't exercise.
Well, I'll try to be more consistent now. I need to do this. But I want to go back a little bit, because before we start talking about healthcare and, of course, your incredible success, I really want to go back to your early life and your growing up from Bangalore. You're made home in Bengaluru now. But what was your early life growing up like?
I am the 8th of the 9 children. So growing up as a kid among a large family is like growing up in a school itself. So you learn the art of survival when you have so many brothers, cousins, and so I learned the art of survival. And also because you are the youngest, one of the youngest children, when you are growing up, you see your parents growing older, and naturally they fall sick. So my father was a diabetic, and he was going in and out of the hospital. And my mother had some other health issues. So as children, in our eyes, doctor was like God. I mean, I guess that's the reason why my oldest brother became a doctor. And I also followed his path. And something interesting happened when I was in 5th or 6th standard. Dr. Christian Bernard did the first heart transplant in Cape Town.
That's right.
And my teacher announced in the class that somebody did a heart transplant. And I said, I want to become a heart transplant surgeon. I, in fact, decided to become a heart surgeon before deciding to become a doctor.
I see. So in a way, it was the inspiration of what Dr. Bernard had done. And talked about in school that kind of spurred you to have that thought process. Yeah. But interestingly, from that young age, that thought process didn't change.
No, for me, once I'm focused on something, I have to get it. Yeah. I can focus and go on and on for years and years. Yeah. That's very important.
When you went to school, and then, of course, you obviously went to school in India and then went on to higher education in the UK. But all through your school years and all the way into education, by the time you got to the UK, you were still always focused on being a doctor.
I was focused and I worked very hard, but it was tough, Vijay. It has always been tough. I couldn't get into the medical college during the first attempt. Then I got through. And again, medical education is very tough. But somehow managed to scrape through at times. And sometimes I did extremely well. Then again, you have to keep on appearing for exam after exam. If you see the medical books, they are so thick. And you are supposed to know everything. I don't think there is any education in the world which is as grueling as medical education. But then that's the way it was, and it was tough to start off in England. But once you establish yourself and people trust you, things are great.
That was, by the way, when I was growing up, that's all I wanted to be, was to be a doctor. I was just a terrible student and I couldn't do it. But I went on talking
Vijay,
about...
sorry to interrupt you. Just because you were a terrible student, that doesn't make you, if you ever took up medicine, it doesn't get reflected to become a poor doctor. Your rank in the school and your academic performance has nothing to do with what good doctor or a bad doctor you are going to be. It has nothing to do with that. It will help you to get into the best medical school, but what you make after the medical school depends entirely on your passion. It's totally dependent on the passion. You're willing to work for 18, 20 hours a day, and you're going to take care, you're going to empathize with the patient. You understand their problem as your own problem. No matter what marks you got, you will excel.
In this profession, because it's based so much on human touch, you have to relate to the patient has to relate to the surgeon, to the doctor, to the GP, whoever it is. What is that little bit that makes a difference between the patient believing and trusting and feeling good about the doctor as opposed to saying, oh, well, his accolades are so good, so I'm going to go to him?
Nothing but passion, compassion. No matter how skilled you are, what knowledge you have, if you lack compassion, if you lack passion, they can, win 1 second, they can spot compassion on your face, Vijay. Yeah, I have seen it time and again. I change my address so many times in different parts of the world. Wherever I go, they still travel. People travel for 3.5 days by train, carrying little babies from Bangladesh or Pakistan, or just to spend 5 minutes with me. Why? I am no greater than most of the other surgeons. It's a trust.
Which is a vital aspect, obviously, in this profession. Now, you were the first person in the country to perform a heart surgery, neonatal heart surgery, on a 9-day-old child. I mean, what's going through your mind at this point?
Vijay, I used to work at the Guy's Hospital in London, where pediatric cardiac surgery is like a routine procedure. But in India then, it was a novelty. You must realize that India produces 26 million babies a year. Technically, we produce about 600 to 800 children a day with the heart disease. And something has to be done. Someone has to start. And when I was trying to convince everyone around that children can be operated and heart surgery can be done, they can live normally after the surgery, it was hard. It was stressful those days. The management wasn't convinced. The parents were not convinced. But then it has to happen. So it happened, and I've been very, very lucky. I love children. I have 4 of my own. And I thought that this has to be done. And today we have trained hundreds of heart surgeons. Pediatric heart surgery has become a norm. Nobody jumps out of the chair when we tell them that your kid requires an operation. Things have changed, but it was difficult. 25 years ago, you're talking about. Yeah.
Incredible. I had an interesting conversation at one charity event that I was part of. And the gentleman sitting next to me was the legendary Dr. Denton Cooley. When I got an opportunity to speak to him, and he was, I think at the time he was 90 years old, and he explained to me in great detail the procedure for heart surgery and how difficult it is to operate on Indian patients because of the width of the arteries.
Exactly. Yes.
And is that a huge difference when you get in there?
There is a big difference in the disease process affecting the Western patients and Indian patients. The average age of my patients in England was in their 50s and 60s. In England, coronary artery disease is the disease of the old retired people. In India, the average age is about 45 years. We develop heart disease at a much younger age, and we develop diffuse disease. Beginning till the end, we develop disease, predominantly because of the diabetes. The 50% of the heart patients we operate are diabetics, Vijay. So diabetes leads to very diffuse form of disease. So on the whole, coronary artery disease among Indian behaves differently than the Western population. And also in India, strangely, it is not the young son bringing his old father for a heart operation. It's the old father bringing his young son for a heart operation. It's a different world altogether.
Is there any particular age group that you're most susceptible to this kind of a disease?
See, generally it's a disease of the people in their 50s, but we do come across patients in their 40s, and now we are seeing patients in their 20s, which was unthinkable in the past. It is no more a disease of the old people.
And can it be hereditary?
There are families in India where no male member has celebrated 50th birthday. It runs in the family. And especially if you're diabetics, and added to that, if you start smoking, that's a terrible combination. And incidence of smoking in this country is going up all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously the key question for a surgeon is, at what point in time does he then decide that surgery is imminent? It has to be done. It has to be done now. It has to be done quickly to be able to save the patient. And when you get into that mode of thought process, what is going through your mind as you're about to be the difference between saving someone's life and letting them go?
Vijay, fortunately, not all the heart patients require operation. See, in India, table has turned now. 25 years ago, I used to spend an hour convincing patient for an heart operation because they never saw anybody having an operation and they're very scared. Today, if I tell the patient that you need an operation, in 2 minutes, everything is done and leaves my office. But if I ever tell him you don't need an operation, I have to spend an hour convincing him why he shouldn't have the operation. Everybody wants a heart operation.
I see.
And not everybody requires an operation. Very small percentage of the heart patients really require operation. Coronary artery disease, especially past the age of 60, is not a disease, it's an aging process. You don't treat all the aging process. Unless it is located in a critical area, you don't need an operation. And when we operate on the patients, see, I was very happy as a heart surgeon in England because I used to see patients on the table and I never saw them after the operation other than in a few visits in the ICU. Because a patient, for me, is an angiogram and a heart. And I was called as operating machines because my job was to operate. But in India, it doesn't work like that. I have to meet the family members, explain to them. You see the man, you see his young wife, young children, then your memory goes back to your own childhood. You know, if my father needed an operation at the age of 45, or if something happened to him, 9 of us would have been on the street. Yeah.
Is being a surgeon, whether it's a heart surgeon or any other surgeon, eye surgeon, and so on and so forth, is it for everyone? Is it someone who has a great passion to save lives? Is it for someone like that? Or?
No, Vijay.
Hard to.
You need to be made up of a different material altogether. See, even at this stage of my life, if I get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, after having finished surgery at 10 o'clock at night, you go home and you're just about to sleep, and 2 o'clock at night, they call you saying patient is bleeding. You have to go back and see what's going on. No other profession requires you to work for 14, 16 hours a day and constantly talk about life and death with the patient and the family. Yeah. Which other profession you take 3 to 4 people every day to the brink of death and bring them back? No other profession.
How far, Dr. Shetty, how far has this particular profession, the surgery of the heart, coronary disease, how far has the ability to save lives progressed over the last 10, 15 years?
Dramatic progression. The condition, why 20 years, Vijay? 15 years ago, 10 years ago, conditions which were considered inoperable or, they had no hope. Today, we can almost take a bet and do the operation and ensure that they go. There is a condition called pulmonary embolism. This happens due to blood clot formation in the leg, and the clot travels up into the heart and the lungs. It chokes the arteries. And they can be very young people. And once it reaches the extreme level, they're bedridden. They're on home oxygen. And I'll give a typical example. A patient from Kerala, he was a scuba diver. And he developed this dreadful condition. And he was on home oxygen, brought to the hospital, virtually had a cardiac arrest. We operated on him as an emergency. Exactly 3 months later, he was scuba diving. Yeah, this is an exciting field. The joy of seeing these people leading a normal life after the heart operation is amazing. And the beauty of being a heart surgeon compared to a cancer surgeon is that we can virtually cure people. It's an amazing experience. You have a little kid who's very blue, and you take the kid to the operating room, do the operation. 4 hours later, you call the mother, tell the mother that, look, your child's operation is over. This is your child. Mother would look at the kid and say, this is not my child. Then you tell her, no, this is your kid. He was very dark before. Now he's fair. That's his original color.
Amazing.
And she touches again, and will he always remain like this? You say, yeah, he's going to remain like this. No other profession you have this dramatic impact on human life. If I had to come back to this world another 100 times, I would do exactly what I'm doing.
Dr. Shetty, I'm going to move a little bit away from obviously the great importance of heart surgery and move on to some other stuff like healthcare. But before I talk about healthcare, I want to ask you about your incredible association with Blessed Mother Teresa. Someone whom I've met, spent some time with, but I always felt when you're with someone like that, you're in the presence of greatness. And your association with her goes back a long way.
Vijay, it was a strange incident happened when I was working in Calcutta. I received a call. I was operating and there was a telephone call in the operating room. Those days there were no mobile phones. And my anesthetist who took the call, he said, they're asking you to visit some patient at home. And I told them that I'm a surgeon. What do I do at home? I won't make any home visit. Then I could hear the caller said, if you visit, it may perhaps change your life. Then I said, all right, I don't mind. Then I realized they didn't want to say that mother was unwell. And so I went to see her as a doctor, but I became her disciple. For me, it's very hard to accept someone like me with flesh and blood to be like God. But believe me, Vijay, she's not like us. She's something different. You can feel the divine presence whenever you're close to her. I never felt that way in any other place or any other personalities in my whole life. It's truly divine, and the lessons I learned and her simplicity, it's truly remarkable. Those are the best part of my life. It really transformed my approach and attitude towards life. Yeah.
Those interesting things that obviously she conveyed to you and said to you as far as saving children and doing free service to children and so on and so forth, and having seen you with children at her place. Must have been an amazing feeling to come away from that experience and then take it through the rest of your life.
See, the thing with the mother, even though she's not with us anymore, I still have all those memories very fresh in my mind. And whenever you go through, problems, difficulties, there is a very interesting statement she made, which is on my table all the time. It's about people, how their reaction towards what you're doing. It's a very long statement. I think it's on her tombstone in mother's house. It's all about people, how they react to what you do. But you have to do what you're supposed to do without really bothering about what they are reflecting on what you're trying to do. Because the last statement is, in the end, it's always between you and the God, and it is never between you and them. Yeah, that's very soothing statement, because you hear a lot of criticism about mother of late in the newspaper. It's very sad, but she predicted it, a few decades ago, that this is the way people react. But you're not doing anything because of they appreciate or they criticize. You're doing it because this is the way to serve God. One simple lesson she taught me, which is, of course, it's one of her famous statements, that the hands that help are more sacred than the lips that pray.
Yes,
Just
which
try to
was a
help
tremendous statement, resonates with everyone, and it's so true. Do we have that compassion lost in today's society?
I don't think it is lost. I think it was masked for some time. And now it is again getting unmasked, predominantly because we went through a short period of time in the history of this country where to be wealthy, you needed to be doing things not the right way. Today, after opening of the economy, good people could become rich. See, to make a difference to this world, you need to be rich. It doesn't matter what your ideologies are. Without money, you can't make a difference to the society. And today, a lot of good people have become rich. And when good people become rich, money gets utilized for good causes. I have seen this transition. I started begging people to give money for saving these children's heart operation or whatever, all these causes. 25 years ago when I started my journey in India, I used to see the difference. Today, it's amazing how people write a check. You can't believe, Vijay, there is an organization called Have a Heart in Bangalore. The promoters are all small-time traders in Commercial Street. They sponsor 100 heart surgeries on children every month. They're not billionaires. So the concept of giving has come back to this country, fortunately.
Which is wonderful, actually, which is something that the world continues to need to do more of anyway as we move forward. Let's talk, Dr. Shetty, about healthcare. Generally in the global perspective, and then perhaps on the Indian perspective, and how we can take it forward. There's a lot of issues about healthcare, the quality of healthcare, the cost of healthcare, the insurance programs, the issue of medical tourism, people coming in because of the costs, a whole slew of things that are associated with healthcare. And needless to say, that in something like surgery that you do, quality cannot be compromised. It has to stay at the top level because you're saving someone's life. So at that point in time, how are you able to reduce the cost?
Vijay, India can become the first country in the world to dissociate healthcare from affluence. India can prove to the world that the wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare its citizens can enjoy. All our policymakers have to do is to liberate medical education. That's all. You will see amazing transformation in less than 3 years. Because this is the country which produces 50,000 doctors a year. We produce the largest number of doctors in the world. We produce the largest number of nurses in the world. We produce the largest number of medical techs in the world. Outside US, we have the one of the largest number of US FDA approved drug manufacturing units. We have everything going for a phenomenal healthcare delivery. But what we lack is the specialist who can reduce the maternal mortality, infant mortality, and offer affordable healthcare in rural India. We are running a city-centric healthcare.
But let me ask you, I don't mean to get sort of layman conversations, but the thing that first comes to mind is the pharmaceutical companies. And are their margins so high that it makes the drugs unaffordable? Because we've got millions of people, as you rightly pointed out, in the rural areas that don't have the ability to buy that kind of drugs. The second issue is the ability of the quality of surgeons and the GPs that are available to go out into the marketplace and to be able to treat these people. You've given us the stats, the number of children who die constantly on a daily basis. Are we able to kind of lock this all into sort of one segment and say, yes, the pharmaceutical companies have to reduce this, and this by the time we actually get that drug to a post-operative care?
Vijay, you'll be amazed at the price of the quality medicines available in this country. No part of the world you can get the medicines at the Indian price at its quality. It is amazing how the Indian drug companies do it, but they have done it. They have mastered it. The problem is there aren't that many hands to prescribe those drugs. That is the biggest problem. We have over 60 million diabetic patients in the country. There are not more than 1,500 diabetologists who can take care of them. So our biggest problem, why there is no explosion in the quality of healthcare, is because we have not that many specialists. We are not converting the doctors into specialists. Because today, the message young population has is that unless you're a rich man's son or a daughter, you can't become a doctor, because every young doctor wants to become a specialist. And it is very expensive. It is needless. So in the process, children from poor families are not joining medical college. If children from poor families do not join medical colleges today, Vijay, when we all grow older, when we need operation, you will have third-class doctors operating on us. Because outstanding doctors across the world generally come from deprived background. Because these are the children with the fire in the belly who will work for 16, 18 hours a day. They become phenomenal doctors. And they are not choosing medical profession.
Are we losing medical professionals, doctors, GPs, surgeons, etc., to going overseas?
Yes, they are going there not because of the lure of money. They are going there because of the pursuit of excellence. They want to become specialists, and they can't get a PG seat here. We have, in US, they have 20,000 undergraduation seats in medical college and 40,000 post-graduation seats. We have 50,000 undergraduation seats in medical colleges and only 14,000 post-graduation seats. So after your MBBS degree, you need to spend 2 years to 5 years in Kerala or in Kota, mugging multiple choice questions in those coaching centers to pass the MCQ. So this is the tragedy. And if this is not fixed, we are going in for disastrous consequences.
Well, I mean, obviously, our country is a large country with complicated issues, and the healthcare is something that really needs to be looked at very closely. And someone like yourself is able to drive that both locally with the consumer as well as with the government. Now, the one that you've created, Narayana Health, which is now converted into an incredible conglomerate of some 17 hospitals in different parts of India. And you have a great vision to have something like 30,000 beds across Asia and Africa and all over the world. What drives you? Are you now trying to touch more children and heart patients across the world because it's not available?
Vijay, country requires 3 million beds. So what we are trying to do is nothing. So there is a need. If you go to tier 2, there are 100 towns in India with a population of 500,000 to 1 million where there is no heart hospital. So we are running a city-centric healthcare. We have to go to tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. And I strongly believe that we have an obligation to help people in Africa, because for them, American and European model won't suit. And like UK, US helped us to create our medical infrastructure by training doctors like us. I'm a doctor today because of the NHS of UK. If they didn't train me, I wouldn't have been a heart surgeon. Those days, there weren't that many heart centers training heart surgeons. And we have an obligation to Africa. So we have to look at things in a larger perspective, produce more doctors, change the whole policies. Then you will notice that India will truly become a superpower.
What would you like to see within your own conglomerate of hospitals that you're expanding on a very incredibly fast-paced basis? Are you having issues with bringing more surgeons in, bringing more specialists in? Is it more difficult? Is it easier? Is it cost-effective to be able to provide this kind of lesser-priced healthcare across rural India?
Vijay, the specialists just don't exist today. So you may arrange the money, you may arrange the land and everything. Simply you don't have that many anesthetists, pediatricians, radiologists, gynecologists, surgeons. Simply we don't have. And because there is a shortage, they all prefer to stay in the city. So there will be a serious problem for expansion further unless things doesn't change.
Is the medical profession in India getting the both the accolades as well as the help that it deserves from the government?
Medical profession is getting a lot of support from the government. Government wants more hospitals to come up, but then their commitments and the desire for universal healthcare and building great services should get converted into action, and that is not happening. We are not seeing much of an action in terms of policy changes. There are a lot of slogans, commitments, but it is not getting converted into action.
Is it common to have the kind of reactions from the government when you go to them or to the health ministry and so on, to be able to make things easier for having maybe specialists come in and perform in India?
It is extremely hard to get an overseas doctor to come down and do the procedure here because they don't get the license. It's a very, very cumbersome procedure. And there is no question of them settling down here and working for a long duration. They will never get the license. But if things doesn't change, then we may not have a choice. We get a lot of requests from surgeons from UK, Europe, coming to us for training for 6 months to 1 year of training. We have trained few surgeons for NHS and the other European countries. But it's a matter of time before it will only increase.
Do you see medical tourism increasing as far as India is concerned?
There will be a huge surge in the medical tourism flow because as we get more, medical tourism is directly linked with the air connectivity. No matter how good your hospitals are, if there is no air connectivity, if they are made to wait for 10 hours in the immigration department, you forget about medical tourism. So we can see perceptible changes by the External Affairs Ministry. Like you're aware of the visa on arrival and a lot of international airports coming up in small towns. All these are going to add. And medical tourism is going to be a big thing in the future. Yeah.
So where would you like to see your health conglomerate, Narayana Health Conglomerate, go in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm not worried or I'm not bothered much about my company, Vijay, but I want India to be the global leader in healthcare industry. It's because economy of 21st century will be driven by health sector. Today, healthcare and wellness industry is the second largest industry in the world, $7 trillion. And it is the largest employer in the world. So if India makes the right policy changes, we will create millions and millions of jobs for all the young people. And we will also become a healthy nation. And the healthcare will become the driver of the economic change.
Is there a perfect model in any country as far as healthcare is concerned that we can emulate?
I always admire the British system, but every British citizen is complaining. But I admire the system because that's a system where a millionaire and his chauffeur will be lying next to each other in a ward or an NHS hospital. They get the equally good care without paying for it. But every system has to change. Whatever you did, Vijay, 20 years ago, you can't keep doing it today. Every 5 years, we have to reinvent ourselves. But that's one model I really appreciate. And India can have our own model. Yeah. Why should we emulate others?
So you have 4 children of your own, as you said earlier. What do you see for them? What do they like to do? What is their passion? What drives them?
I wanted them to do whatever they want to do. But fortunately or unfortunately, they all want to be doctors. Or my oldest son is managing the hospital. So they love what I am doing. And I didn't force them. They came on their own. And I am privileged. I'm lucky. If God comes and asks me, Vijay, is there anything else you want to have materially? There is nothing in this world I want. Yeah.
Not many people can say that. Not many people can say that. Because you always end up doing something that you don't want to do because you earn a living. But if passion is driving you to do it, and at the same time, it's your business, it adds great value to it, of course. But coming back to just the last couple of questions, Dr. Shetty, because this profession is something that is very critical to the survival of an individual. It's absolutely critical. Everyone falls sick at some time in their career. doctors are needed, hospitals are needed, medical care is needed, pharmaceutical companies need to reduce their prices. At whatever price they are, they can always get a bit cheaper, and so on and so forth. But when you look at the profession itself, are there enough people getting into the medical profession to be able to take us and transition us into the next century?
We are getting the numbers, but they're not the right people. We need to get the right people. When I talk about the right people, I'm talking about children from poor families. And we started a program called Udan in Calcutta about 7 years ago. Our intention is to get 2,000 children from villages of West Bengal to become doctors every year. So when they are 13-year-old, they should commit to us that they will become doctors. Then we give them a scholarship of $10 a month. It's about 600 or 500 rupees. And we mentor them. And these kids get into the medical college by merit. And believe me, these kids will become outstanding doctors. They are going to change every rules of the game. Because they are chosen, we choose about 200 to 500 every year. They are chosen out of 40,000, 50,000 applications. They truly have the passion. So this is what we need to do. We need to identify children when they're 13-year-old, 14-year-old, find out whether they have the aspiration to become doctors, mentor them. We don't need to spend money. The medical education in a government medical college is peanuts, is nothing. And all these children need is someone to say that I'm going to make you a doctor. All you have to do is to study. And they will change the country. They will change the world. Take it from me.
Well, that's just amazing to be able to have that drive to create that environment for the poor children to be able to do it, because that's, I think, the key element in all of society to be able to try and bring that to reality. As you move forward, and it's fair to say your experience is unbelievable. You've performed everything that there is needed to perform. You've done thousands and thousands of these surgeries. Accolades have come to you fast and furious across this country and overseas. Is it a pat on the back for you? Is it sort of an endorsement of your success?
Vijay, everyone looks at things differently. Like more than the accolades, patients come, after treatment, they touch your feet and they cry. And especially the people like when you practice I used to practice in Eastern India, a policeman who protects our life, whose wife requires an operation, or child requires an operation, and he has no money. And he's touching your feet, crying, and asking you to save life. And I feel insulted. Because 65 years after independence, if the person who protects your life, the policeman, if he has to touch my feet to save his child's life, we have failed as citizens. A typical patient of mine is a little kid on a mother's lap. And after examining the child, I tell the mother, you need an operation. Your child requires an operation. And they have only one question. You know what the question is? How much is it going to cost? And if I tell her that it costs 80,000 rupees, which she doesn't have, that is a price tag I have put on the child's life. You come up with 80,000 rupees, I'm going to save your child. You don't have 80,000 rupees, you're going to lose your child. The society has given official right, legal right to people like us to put a price tag on human life. What does it show? It is the greatest human tragedy. It's a violation of human right. And we perpetuate it. We are subjected to putting price tag on human life every day. This is what I do. This is what all the doctors in this country, in all the Asian countries do. It is unacceptable. This is not recognition of my greatness. It's a humiliation.
And a sense of reality as well. Yes. It is what's on the ground at this point.
Exactly.
So when you look back at your career, and the final question, did you have a defining moment in your pursuit of excellence? Did you feel, yes, I understand at a young age you were inspired by the teacher talking about Dr. Barnard and the first heart transplant in Cape Town. So many things would have touched you over the period of time that you've had this incredible and glorious career in the medical profession and continues to exist. at the highest level. But what would be that defining moment in your pursuit of excellence?
See, I always want to come back, and I shifted from London, from Guy's Hospital to Calcutta. And the transformation was like something hit from the board. I mean, it's like transformation from Heathrow to Howrah. So you can just imagine,
Yes.
right? I mean, I used to see 100 patients a day in my OPD. Not even one patient turned up for operation. Because those days the heart surgery was costing 1.5 lakh rupees, 25 years ago. Today, same operation, we are able to do it for 80,000 rupees. That was the, moment of reconciliation, that for 1.5 lakh rupees, no matter, you have Vijay, if a solution is not affordable, it is not a solution. So no point in me talking about, breakthrough research work if poor people, ordinary people can't afford it. And I think that has been the single game changer in my life, to realize that no matter how good surgeon you are, if you're not affordable, you're of no use to them.
That's very true. Very true. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I didn't ask you earlier, is really, where do we see in the next 10, 20 years India's journey in this field of in the medical profession?
Within the next 10 years, India will prove to the world that wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare. Every procedure on the human body will be done differently, and that will be defined by Indian doctors, Indian hospitals, and Indian specialists. And in India, people will take healthcare for granted. It won't be a topic for discussion. It will happen within 10 years. I strongly trust the political system of this country, current system. I know they will transform. They are slow to react, but they will change. And when that change happens, you will see changes on a daily basis. And within 3 to 5 years' time, there will be total perceptible changes in rural healthcare, urban healthcare, and everything. Vijay, we have 850 million mobile phone subscribers who spend 150 rupees per month just to speak on the mobile phone. If we can charge 20 rupees for each mobile phone subscriber, that is sufficient to cover the most of the healthcare cost of 850 million people. We are a country of 1.2 billion population. We can change the world.
And in future, are we going to have cures for these terminal illnesses that seem to have hit pretty much all of society around the world?
Vijay, we are not looking at the cure. We are looking at so-called dreadful diseases getting converted as chronic illnesses, which is compatible with normal lifestyle and normal life expectancy. You will still have the disease, but it's not going to kill you. Like today, coronary artery disease. You can lead a normal lifestyle, normal lifespan, having a disease. You're not cured of the disease, but it's not affecting you anyway. Other than, of course, you can't smoke and you can't indulge in, bad food. Other than that, it will never affect your lifespan or the lifestyle. So cancer, heart disease, and so-called dreadful diseases will allow you to enjoy the life.
Finally, Dr. Shetty, in a profession that I always wanted to be in, how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as a heart surgeon who really enjoyed operating on the heart. That's all. Nothing more.
Well, I hope there are more people like you around in the world of medicine, because people like us feel a lot safer.
Thank you very much,
Dr. Shetty.
Thank you.
You can also watch this episode online at louisphilippe.com.